Hello and welcome to this week's Madaxeman podcast. This is number 13 in the lockdown series. We've got the full set of 7 back. None of them have been out shopping, we believe, to Primark this weekend as shops open across the UK as lockdown starts to get eased. But we're all still here doing lots of painting. We also discuss the medieval Scandinavian army. We do teaching Timmy about Napoleonics with its usual culinary expedition and side dishes as well. And Andy's quiz returns yet again. We chat a bit about some of the games we played, and then we chat about what we're going to be doing next week. So we're up to number 13. Thank you for sticking with us. Stay safe out there and enjoy the podcast.
This means war. This means war.
Well, this is the Baker's Dozen. There's 13 episodes plus 2 specials, and there's 7 people here, and we're all on the little windows in Zoom for episode number, I think it's probably about 38 or something of the Madaxeman podcast, and the 13th special lockdown podcast as well. We've got the full set of people here. How exciting is that? Some of them appear to have had a haircut. Some of them very definitely don't appear to have had a haircut. Yeah, shake your head, Peter. Yeah, we can see that. It's like who is it? It's like David. It's like you're the David Ginola of wargaming there, but a touch more.
Oh, is that hair? I thought you were wearing a badger hat.
Looks like it's landed on your head.
I thought you were just wearing a badger. Just wearing a badger. And Dave, you clearly managed to buy some clippers off Amazon, but obviously not one of the things that grades it any more than number 1 all over.
Well, I refused to do that off Amazon, so I got them off eBay.
Oh, right. Okay.
Much deliberation. They were 25 quid.
And did you go cordless?
No. The minimum price on a cordless set of shears was at least £75.
Oh, dear.
It should
Yeah.
be about £25. So in the end, I found some guy in London who was ready to part with some for 25 quid.
So these are used?
No, they're brand new in a box.
Right.
And they're by Wahl, W-A-H-L, which sounds German, but I've discovered is made in Kent.
In Kent?
Oh,
Wahl clippers are made.
It's made in China, but then they're sold out of Kent. But they've adopted a German name to obviously make themselves look really intelligent and clever.
Right. No, that sounds that sounds like a very good plan.
The technique was a number 5 on top, with a number 2 and a number 3 on the sides.
That looks exactly like one of the haircuts from one of your Egyptian soldiers you were painting last week. So I can see the historical.
Whether we should have Nubian or Egyptian.
So what have you been painting then, Dave? We've now talked about your hair. We'll just go straight to you for the painting.
So the Egyptians are almost done. I've got 3 chariots, 2 paints this week. Some more bowmen to go, but I have painted. The Egyptians are now 10 swordsmen strong. 10 bases of
10 bases
by 40, 2 bases of heavy infantry, and 8 bases of bowmen. And,
too many. Good.
6 bases of light foot. Maybe more than that, actually. 1, 2, 3. No, there's about 8 bases of light foot and 2 bases of javelin. So all the options available so far, but the chariots are still a challenge.
So have you managed to put any of those chariots together? Because I think last time you were attempting to do it and then you were like, whoa, or something like that. And there was like a big problematic question about axles and stuff. So where are you at with the axle and fit on the 40 thing? Talk us through it as if we're on a radio program.
Yeah, no, I know. So yeah, exactly. So I've done one as a trial run, and I've got it on a 40 by 40. I had to bend the yoke slightly upwards. And that gave it enough space to go in. It's a slight angle, not much of an angle, but it's fine. It fits on. I'm quite pleased with the results.
Did you strengthen the axles, or did you just use the axles they had?
No, I've left them as is because I quite like the length. But I think I dropped one and it did completely bend and go down as you predicted.
Right.
Sagged in the centre. I had a saggy chariot.
And did you manage to work out a go faster stripe colour that was the big challenge last week? What colour did you end up with?
Right, so I'm thinking, so the main army is pretty uncolourful, should we say? I've avoided the temptation to put everybody into red and white decals on the head. There's a few red and white tea towels to make it more colourful. But the main army is very white and, correct. So the chariots I've done are yellow and blue. So they're looking a little bit Swedish.
Oh, that's good for Simon then. You'll be happy about that.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit Swedish at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've got one Pharaoh's. I mean, basically the Pharaoh's chariot is the only one with armoured horses.
Okay, that's easy to spot. And did you put that on a square, or did you go to try and fit it on a round?
No, I haven't got as far as painting the Pharaoh yet. Pharaoh's in the painting tray. He's actually sitting here waiting to be painted. He's there. Look, there's his horsey.
You put it on an obelisk, really, sure, you're a steel or something.
Don't know, yeah. But but I think Mr. Ian's gone on, Fighting 15s have gone on holiday or something, or they've had flood damage in the garage.
Well, I think he's getting over the flood damage, but he's just sorting out his website so that he can start selling things again properly.
So
I've seen that.
The rest of the chariots ordered.
He does it looks like it's a good upgrade to the website, but he does keep putting some rather perhaps overly colourful pictures of female miniatures, which in a world of kind of supporting Annie and Bad Squidoo, I must admit I do feel slightly personally dubious about, but maybe it's one of those ranges that he's got from a time being or back in the past. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, chariots are on the next order. I did have it was £89 for me in Fighting 50s. It's a bargain. I've got every single option. I've got more bowmen than I could ever shake an army at. I've got more swordsmen than I possibly need. So that's good. I'll have a good 300 plus points by the time.
Do you ever use more than a couple of bowmen then, really?
Well,
he's not used any yet.
I'm going to have the option to do the old kingdom as well as the new kingdom. So
you ever feel like playing Meg, you're all right then, aren't you?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
So I think with the army list I've actually created, I've got one command. I've got 6 bowmen. I've got one command with 2, one command with 2, and one command with 2. So there's 6 bowmen in the army.
Well, I sometimes do the
You're a big fan of those pairs of bowmen, aren't you? You're a big fan of those pairs of bowmen, aren't you?
I do like that, yeah, especially when you can use some mediocre ones. But I'm also tempted. Iñaki likes to put 4 bowmen in a field together, and so does Richard Case.
Case.
And I think 4 bowmen all shooting together can be quite a hefty bit of damage.
Yeah, actually, if you can get them uphill as well, suddenly they become super difficult to dislodge, don't they? Okay.
And if you've got some cavalry supporting them, and I think that's one of the things with this army is to have quite a few bowmen supported by the chariots. So the chariots manoeuvre and get round the flanks of people. So people find it hard to get in on your bowmen because they're being threatened on the side by the chariots. Or so as the theory goes.
So's the theory, all right.
Yeah.
Well, he painted the chariots in a sort of Swedish colour, so that neatly takes us to Simon and your 7 Years' War Swede epic, which I think, was it finished last week? I'm trying to remember. It was nearly done or just about done.
It's I've now finished all the Swedes, so they've all been based and flocked. They're just getting their grass on tonight and tomorrow. So the biggest thing I managed to achieve last week was to paint 2 elephants. That's as close as I got.
Oh,
so,
is that your full? That's 2 elephants is your full set of painting for the week?
Yes, big achievement. So this was the 2 QRF the Mogul battle elephants with guns, battle armor, big gold points on the tusks, and full entourage and all that. So they look really cool.
I miss the elephants to the reference in the Battle of Poltava. When did they appear in the Swedish army?
It was one of the expansions that came out after Warhammer Fantasy Battle.
Yeah, and there must have been a WRG army list that included because they used to have that list for all of the Chinese armies.
I think it's one of the ones where they had impetuous Swedish elephants.
Yeah, WRG version 1, they had like an army for everything kind of east of the Vistula or something. All those armies were just kind of mushed into one cold set, and it just worked. All right, okay. Well, Peter, what about you? While we're talking people who are painted in white and grey, did they arrive? Did the mystery packet of Austrians arrive?
Still waiting for Eureka. They sent me this notification saying it's on its way. now 2 weeks ago. So I think they're slowly walking here from Austria. So in the meantime, of course,
Austria. I think if you're expecting them from Austria, you may be waiting quite some time.
Yeah, that's
well, you know, they might actually turn up faster from Austria than the
Yeah,
UK.
at the end of every week, they've got to stop and build a depot and wait for their cocoa to arrive.
Yeah, it feels like it. So therefore I succumbed and ordered some new ones from Donington for Spanish medieval.
Right. What's some of that new Donington New Era stuff?
Yeah, the new era stuff. Right? They're lovely models. I've got some of their Arabs and everything else. And then I was looking at some of the Spanish medieval lists, and there's what was it? They're called Gintas and a couple of others. So,
yes.
Yep.
Sure.
So, yeah, those. Thank you. Thanks for pronunciations. That's some flags and such like to honour our friends in Navarre, where we go play a number of times. So I'm going to do a medieval Spanish list with all Navarre flags and colours and all that sort of thing.
So, Peter, just thinking aloud here, is what first attracted you to the medieval Spanish list?
Oh, one or two medieval nights.
One or two medieval nights. Okay, yeah, no, I'm just having a flashback to every single army list discussion we've had so far over the last 10 weeks. Just there for
I want medieval nights.
Exactly. I think we've worked that out. I think we've all absolutely worked that out, which is all good. So,
it works.
Peter, on a pointed translation, 1 or 2 is not the Spanish term for shetlows.
No.
No. Yeah, sorry, it's a lost in translation. It's 1 or 2 commands of. Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Okay. There's a joke about Juan or Juan, but we won't make that there. So have you actually painted anything, or were you doing like giant blue monkeys with wings last week?
Blue monkeys with wings, green orc type things, green goblins, a few dwarves. I was looking at getting some wolf riders, but then I flipped onto the Spanish medieval. So I'm basically working.
They were too close to medium knights then, and you thought, let's just have medium knights.
Well, yeah, it was inching there. Simon's trying to push me over the edge, you know.
Okay.
He's an enabler.
So you're hoping that these things arrive soon, or have they arrived already?
I'm awaiting. So
you're awaiting.
Damien at Donington, he's pretty good at turning stuff around. So he's already sent an email saying I'm going to be dispatching them. So they were a couple of days ago. So hopefully they'll be arriving this week. The Eureka ones. Well,
who knows? You know. So if they both arrive at the same time, which one would make it front of the pile?
Now that's a challenge. You see,
maybe we come back to you next week and ask you which one you did.
There's no question, Tim. Shiny new knights. It's a no-brainer.
It's probably true.
Yeah.
You just make sure you got enough gold paint, Tim. Peter, just make sure you got enough gold paint for them.
Yeah.
No, but the other thing is I've got the Grenzers. The geezers.
Oh, yeah.
The greasers
with all the little slopey hats and things.
Okay.
And dark red coats, yeah.
Yeah, so the Austrians that aren't white are turning up now.
Oh, wow.
Okay, interesting. So Andy, you're chipping in with colours there. What's been on your painting deck this week? I hear there's been a lot of drilling going on in the Finkel household.
Well, yes, I managed to drill the hands of the Irish, not to drill anybody else's hands, which was a major achievement for me.
So this is your first experience with a mini drill. Well, a second-hand mini drill.
Indeed, or first-hand mini drill for that matter. Yeah. Yeah. So I managed to drill them in, and I sort of ran a spear through the gap, and it's the right size. And so I've got the Irish.
Andy. Let's see your hands.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no holes in the hands.
There's no holes. There's no blood. That's good.
Yeah, that's really
Fantastic. Well done. That's anybody else doing their first bit of drilling.
I'm going to say, are you sure you've actually drilled something? Because you've actually got some blood on the miniatures. They haven't been properly broken in.
See, there's a hole in the hand there.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't come out well on the podcast for the listeners, but you guys can see it. They're all done. So it's so at the moment I'm sort of sticking them onto bases, and I'm going to stick shields on and just finish them off. So they should be done by next week, and then it's I'll be painting the pikemen. They've had their hands drilled as well where necessary.
So it's just been a whole lot of drilling going on all week, really, and that's kind of.
That was amazingly quick to do. I mean, the whole lot, about 20 Irish, 28 mil, and about the same number of 25 mil pikemen, and it's all done literally within an hour, probably less.
And did you what drill bits? Did you get some of those ones that Simon had recommended that were sort of slightly fatter to kind of?
No.
Fit in the drill? You just used the straight ones that.
I used the smallest one that are the ones that you sent me, and that was absolutely fine.
Oh, brilliant! Okay, all right, with that drill, that's good. Cool. Yeah. Well, let's go left on the screen then. Adam, you're obviously snipping something almost as we speak, but which either means you suddenly realise you've not done any painting and you're trying to frantically get some in before we got round to you on the screen of 7, or it's been kind of a prepping and planning week.
Well, I finished off the Russian tanks and trucks that I was doing, so I got them done. So I'm quite pleased, and I've been and I'm prepping up the Mongol cavalry. As you say, even as we speak, I'm doing batch of 12. The horses are all put together, and I'm just putting together the riders.
How many tanks have you done?
It was only 2 tanks and 2 trucks, so nothing. It wasn't a huge week, but I'm doing something odd with the Mongol cavalry. I am priming the horses in a different colour to the riders.
Good move.
I'm priming the horses black.
Yes.
Because sort of like going with get them done quickly. Most tails and manes black, lower legs black, so that's sort of like that painting done. And I'm going to do the riders white because actually white's a better colour to put underneath the colours I was going to do with them. So
Austrian riders.
Sorry,
Austrian riders. They're all white.
They're medium knights on elephants, mate. That's exactly what they are. Yeah.
Sweet.
With artillery.
Can they have a
artillery.
But I'm looking for a couple of bits of advice, actually. I say from you guys, I probably just mean Tamsin, to be
Tamsin, yeah. We'll all put ourselves on mute now and wait, stand back. Yeah.
First thing is, I've painting riders. I've never painted riders separately from the horse before. What's a good way of fixing them to something so I can hold them to paint them well?
Drilling sort of into their seat, put a length of paper clip in, and shove the paper clip into a cork.
Okay, so paper clips. I was hoping there was something that I could avoid drilling, but no, it's that's probably going to be a thing. So
you could, if you got
send them around to me. I got a drill.
If you got some nails, you can glue them onto the head of the nail. Put the nail into the cork.
Or do just hold a foot, paint the rest, paint the foot at the end.
That also might work as well. But no, it's the nail, the head of the nail, and a bit of weak glue might also work. So that could happen. Yeah. Next question is, I've never done single base 28 mil cavalry before. When I do infantry, I base them on 2p pieces because it's the perfect size and it gives it the right amount of heft, I find. So basing horses, what's a good thing to base them on?
Do you want to reuse these?
Want to get a pill or oval base, MDF pill or oval base. I'm trying to think who.
Yeah, if you're doing for Saga, there are people who do those MDF bases, aren't there?
So just buy the MDF. It's just I suppose it's like the whole basing the infantry on 2Ps. It's like it's just lying around the house, perfect and really cheap. Yeah. It's only 2B a base. And the final piece of advice is painting 15 mil horses. I just don't bother with the hooves. But what colour are horses' hooves?
Grey.
Is it grey or khaki grey?
Okay.
It depends. It depends.
Grey.
Where you've got white markings on the lower leg.
Yeah.
Then it will tend to be a paler hoof
okay.
colour there, but the other ones will be darker.
Okay, so dark grey or light grey.
Just one thing on the basing of the horses. Do you want to be able to reuse the army for ADLG at all?
I'm not going to, because that's just too much fiddling about, to be honest, to sort of like go from
what you're saying is that's an opportunity not to buy more figures.
Well, yeah, but the other thing is what you can do is under the base itself, if you make the bases not too wide and put a magnet on, you can always just get a blank and have the 3 horses on, and then all of a sudden you've got an ADLG cavalry unit.
Yeah, because I was thinking of just not basing them at all, because the base that these figures come with are quite sort of like wide and they stand okay, but it's not quite. Just want a little bit more heft to them, a little bit more lower the centre of gravity, I think. Yeah, but yeah, we'll see. I might actually not be a cheapskate and buy some MDFs from somebody.
Yeah, 60 by 20 MDF. It's not expensive, and there's a million different companies make it all on eBay.
This means war.
Tamsin, what have you been doing this week? Is it?
Oh, I can screen share.
Ah, okay. You've been doing some yet more of the Judge Dredd people this week. I think. Actually, yeah, I did see some on your blog with those clear bases. They look really, really good. I think you got some really good feedback as well on that.
Those clear bases are really awesome for this type of scale.
Yeah, no, that really rocks, doesn't it? That really works well. Oh wow! So there's a lot of different colours on these people. So you've extended the colour palette.
These were a bit. I started painting them on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday and Thursday, when I woke up, my painting mojo didn't wake up with the rest of me. So
sorry, I thought we were going to get into a real weird War Gamers Craig David moment there. But,
no.
But it was just about the mojo not being there. Fine. Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't get that round to paint. Continuing the painting until Friday, got them finished. It was good fun painting them.
No, they're neat. Oh, I love the green Mohican and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you end up putting any more graffiti on that building, or
no?
were
I haven't yet.
Exhausted with it. You were just exhausted with it. None of our idiot suggestions from last week were quite good enough to, were any good at all. To be honest, I suspect is the answer.
Oh.
So how many of those did you get done this week?
It was 11 figures, and I've also painted the 3 fatties, but I haven't photographed them yet.
Right.
So I suddenly had a thought. Just a second. I've got an MDF kit for a fast food stall sitting around.
As we all do.
I paint and assemble. Get back painted and assembled. So haven't quite finished that. So should finish that tomorrow. Get the photos done then.
Oh, fantastic! That's a good set of real nice, high quality single figures. I think from my point of view, I've kind of done the opposite. Really, I've finished off some of those Essex standard Hungarian spearmen with the printed out shield transfers, and there's like 2 types of shields, and I just posted them up on my blog this afternoon. So I've got 6 bases of spearmen, some of which I did in 2 ranks, and some of which I did in kind of a bit of that sort of knot, that defensive knot that some of the guys down the club use, Jesse and who else is it? Sean as well. Sometimes base their infantry sort of in the centre of the base, so that they're kind of facing out each way, and they seem to have come out really well. And I did find a way of doing those nonsense bowmen that come with the Essex Hungarian army, and just sort of giving them padded gilets with sort of stripy bits that look like they've got kind of leather padding. So that actually is, other than I think I've got belts and pouches to do on 3 bases of handgunners, then that is the Hungarians done. And I'm suddenly facing the difficult decision of what to actually do next. And but I think that's something for a bit later. But I'm really chuffed with the Hungarians getting all the consistent basing and having sort of a whole medieval army that I'm not recycling bits and bobs from the generic medieval light horse tray at all. I've just got a whole army that's completely consistently based and painted in one particular style. So that's been kind of a busy week. But
the red and white shields go beautifully with the basing. They just really stand out.
No, well, I suppose it's one of those things that if you keep cobbling together armies and morphing troops, at some point as you get older and better at painting or learn more tricks, I wouldn't even say better, I'd say you just learn more tricks, then your basing and some of the painting stuff starts to be too different to stuff that you were doing 10, 15, 20 plus years ago that some of these other figures are from. And there's probably a point at which you've just got to go, actually, those old ones do need to get replaced. I can actually do quantitatively better now through technique and practice and just being able to buy different other bits and pieces. So that was kind of the choice really. But so I think it may actually spur me to sell some stuff on eBay, because I now can see that, I can make something that is sufficiently better to stuff I did 10, 15 years ago, that the old stuff just is not really going to fit. It's really, really not going to fit. So,
and there's also the fact that being older, we're not suddenly going to say, oh dear, we need to get an army ready to go on the table, otherwise we've got nothing to play with, and we've all got so many other armies.
Well, I think we're not going to do that because we can't play at the moment. That's one of the joys of lockdown, is actually having enough time to do it. You're not racing for a competition or something like that. And so that's actually the third complete army that I've actually finished under lockdown. The 28 mil Assyrians, the 10 mil French, and these Hungarians. But I think the Hungarians is the only one that I've actually done from scratch. The other two were both sort of a bit started before this happened, but this is like a whole thing. So I've just got to decide whether I paint up some other stuff or what other stuff I do. So there you go. That's the week in painting.
This means war.
So we're into the who played what stage of the week, and looking around, if I can ask for a nod of the head or a shake of the head if you played a game, and actually there's two people there. We've got Andy and Dave look like they played, and there's a rumor doing the rounds on the internet that you actually played each other on Tabletop Simulator. So maybe we can blank out one of you, put you in a sort of a booth, a bit like Mr. and Mrs. and ask how the game went, and then come back to the other. Or that's too technically complicated, and I could just ask Andy first how it went, and then we can see if Dave contradicts him. So Andy, fire away. What was it like?
I was using Carthaginians, and I'm trying to remember what Dave was using now. It was
Alexandrians.
Alexandrians, yeah, that's right. And I had 26 units to his 22, because I was trying out an army for warfare with 2 elephants. And it went very well, actually. We were both rolling remarkably high numbers to begin with, except for one particular combat in the first round where my medium impact Gauls rolled a 6 and his pikemen rolled a 1, and that was goodbye pikemen.
Oh, blast straight through.
Indeed,
absolutely,
yeah.
Blast straight. So was that the decisive point of the game? It was like nip and tuck until you just outdiced him 6-1?
Not really that well. I was kind of slightly ahead on the losses anyway, but Dave did come back towards the end. But I think the size of my army and then trading off losses meant that I was able to win before he was. And I think Dave was kind of waving the white flag because it was nearly midnight anyway. So
midnight.
Okay, so Dave, yeah, from your side of view, what kind of overly lucky cheating dog was Andy to drive you into the dirt in that way?
We started at 8 o'clock and we finished at midnight 30. So I think we'd definitely gone well past 2.5 hours.
Even my maths does that.
But no. I mean, it was my first game properly on TTS. I still find it a bit difficult. I'm not difficult. I think I'm there now. There's a few things, a few technicalities I need to learn. I mean, we were using WhatsApp to communicate between ourselves. We didn't manage to work out the online communications, but need to perfect that. Struggled slightly with them, but by the end of the game, I was really confident with moving the figures around the table, not tipping the table over.
We didn't have so many to move at that stage.
I have to admit that I was fairly drunk by 11:30. For the last hour, I was pretty drunk.
But you also managed not to attack any of your own troops.
Yeah, that was a positive. I think
that's better than Rafa. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I think I went with an army which had too many lights in it against Andy's. Andy's had 26 bases and they were all battle troops more or less, whereas I had at least 3, 4.
Maybe more.
I had 8 light troops. So
wow,
I had 7.
Okay. But my cavalry went through one flank in the end, but too late to turn the flank quick enough to win the game.
To make a difference.
My usual trick with a Carthaginian army, so I went for my usual tactic and failed.
I'm struggling with that. Okay,
it was good. I'm definitely up for some more TTS, but there's a few things I need to. I wouldn't be confident to be the host quite yet. I don't.
Yeah. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
playing Paul Georgian
people...
tomorrow night.
Okay, that's good. Well, he's already just about inched his way past me. And so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you go on that one. Good.
It seems like a nice
well,
guy.
look, no, he's a top lad, and I think now it's a day when people are already queuing quarter of a mile down the road outside Primark. So that surely is one step along the road to us being able to sit 4 feet apart, wearing masks, and starting to play face to face for real. So we're moving in the right direction.
Primark,
possibly.
This means war.
With that part of the podcast over, we now get into. In fact, I'm looking just behind Peter's luxurious hair. I'm sort of peeking around it on the sort of slight small edges of the Zoom screen where his luxurious hair doesn't really cover, to see the Napoleonic-ish sort of battlefield. And we're into teaching Timmy about Napoleon, which is the 4th week, I believe, for this stellar feature that we're working to. Listening back, last week kind of got a bit shouty with a lot of people, so apologies for that. But I think we were all talking so much nonsense, and I was asking so much nonsense. That's fairly understandable. And I'm just trying to remember where we got to. So was last week when we discovered about the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Eurovision Song Contest, or did we do something else after that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Brilliant. So the Russians had gone back home through a country that we didn't know existed at the start of the podcast and given up, which meant Napoleon had been able to beat the Austrians twice in the same place in exactly the same way. And having beaten them twice, he presumably was kind of going back. And then his brother was sort of doing his PR for him and running the country on the sly. And so from where we're up to, I think, I can't remember which year was it we're at the end of? And when he's going back after beating the Austrians?
Well, the Battle of Marengo was 1800, and that essentially...
It was the chicken dish, wasn't it? It was chicken dish
right,
with
random
ingredients.
The French army, yeah. And so with the Battle of Marengo, essentially brought that campaign to a close, and then things kind of tailed off, and you actually had...
It would do, if you've been eating chicken stuffed with, peppers and olives and prawns, I think a lot of stuff would tail off for quite some time, really, wouldn't it?
Well, that was probably Napoleon.
Fried eggs.
And fried eggs, yes, with a fried egg on top.
Obviously, he wasn't a vegan, right?
So we got Napoleon with indigestion. He's back there with his brother. And their hats have changed shape as well because someone, what was that fashion? It can't have really been a.
No, they're still wearing shako. They're still wearing bicorns in this era.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, sort of in terms of this kind of stuff, you need to know about the salient facts. And there's a lot of stuff that we're kind of skimming over here. Sort of peace kind of breaks out because everyone's more or less had enough of it. And during this period,
they're moving on to dessert stage. Someone has come up with Marengo as a main dish, and then the entire chef population of Europe says, "Look, guys, we need at least a year to come up with something this mad to follow that with." To try and
probably meringue.
Well, there are no battles. What
Marengo
are going to give him? Yeah. But anyway, culinary problems aside, Napoleon, they have a referendum in France and vote for Napoleon to become the emperor.
You don't vote for king.
I was going to say,
women lying in pods. Yes, I know, but they didn't have them in those days.
Can I just interrupt there? Because my understanding of the way democracy works after you've kind of chopped head off all the nobility doesn't involve electing an emperor. But
he was elected first consul.
Okay, like
it was
Nintendo
stage.
Or SNES.
Then
it wasn't like overnight. It was like, it got them used to the idea that he's in charge, and he just sort of.
How would you like me to rule
titles?
You? Yeah.
Right. So
I'm going to rule you. How do you want me to do it?
It's all based on Roman ideas that the Romans had 2 consuls. I mean, the French Revolution followed Roman and Republican history to quite extensive. So he was then made consul. In Rome there were 2 consuls, but he was then consul for life, which then became emperor in exactly the way that Augustus was the first man of the Senate. He was the first man of the people.
Was he the one who was in Carry On Cleo, or is that a different one?
No, that's
Sid James.
That's Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar. That's nothing to do with. So there wasn't a Napoleonic Carry On Cleo thing.
Augustus is Julius Caesar's adopted son.
There was Revolution.
So if there'd been a sequel to Carry On Cleo set in Napoleonic times, that would have described what had happened at this point in French history.
I think it would be actually very accurate, actually.
It would be very accurate. That would be good.
Substitute Josephine for Cleopatra.
And which role would Bernard Bresslaw have played? Which role would Bernard Bresslaw have played? That's the important bit.
Marshal Ney, probably.
Okay, well, obviously, I'll just say that, yes. This is the Bernard Bresslaw role. So we've now suddenly got Napoleon has accidentally become emperor through a bit of good PR and people
crowned himself.
And he crowned himself.
Yeah, this is a big deal. He put the crown on his own head.
Okay, all right. So he's now wearing a crown underneath that big hat that we've all seen him on. And he's emperor, and there's peace, and there's like chefs across Europe are making weird desserts, and we're into the something years and stuff like that. So I'm guessing from, again, my limited knowledge, and there's going to be a battle against the English at some point, and there's something to do with Russia coming down the line, not to give away any spoilers, but I'm imagining this peace doesn't last. Does someone, have come up with an extra course in between in mains and dessert? Is there an argument over the petits fours? What goes on?
Well, he bumps off this royal duke. I think I can't remember the guy's name now, but the British take a rather dim view of that.
Brutus? No,
not Brutus. And the British basically use that as a reason to declare war again. And the Napoleon.
Hang on. So he's gone round Europe, kicked loads of people twice. He's gone to Egypt, sort of lost them a bit, but maybe not. Come back home. He's now wearing a crown, and then he kills some bloke in his court after crowning himself, and the English go, that's the excuse we're looking for. We'll go over, have a bit of a rock.
Can I just put in there's probably lots of historians that might disagree with how that peace was broken, who was at fault. Andy can say it was because of that, but there's historical discussion about whose fault it was that the peace was broken and who was mainly responsible.
So what, as in but Napoleon killed some bloke who was involved in government who used to be posh, roughly. Was that it? Or am I missing something?
Well, there was he had some aristo. I think his guy was called Duke of Hungarian. Had him bumped off, I think, or he's accused of having had him bumped off.
Okay.
And that was a prime reason why the British decided, right, we're not having this anymore. But to cut a long story short, Napoleon massed a big army in the Pas de Calais, about 200,000 of them, and was drilling them and training them to invade England. And all he needed was naval superiority to do that. And the French fleet tried to do that and got nowhere. And that essentially ended up with Battle of Trafalgar.
And was that Sir Francis Drake and the Bowls and stuff like that, or is that a different one?
That was a different one. This is Nelson.
That was a different one. This is Nelson, and Nelson's the one who he's the first one to put his hand in his coat and only have one arm, and then Napoleon followed him with that.
There wasn't much of him left by the end of it because he'd lost one eye and one arm and one
leg. His life.
I was just wanting Hardy to kiss him.
Yeah.
And are there any famous films about this one?
Napoleon put his arm in his coat because he thought that looked like a Roman senator making speeches in the Senate of Rome.
It wasn't because he had really tiny hands or something.
No, basically when you make a speech in the Senate in Rome, you hold your toga in one arm, and that's what he was doing.
So that was an affectation, but Nelson did that because he did only have one hand.
Yeah,
So it's the Battle of Trafalgar, which I think you can buy loads of really tiny ships from Forged in Battle, can't you? I think for about 30 quid in teeny tiny, but I've never seen anyone play that. So then there's loads of French people in sort of Belgium and stuff, ready to invade England, but they can't get across the channel because the tunnel's not been opened yet. Eurostar's not working.
And there was lockdown anyway.
There's lockdown. They've lost a naval battle. So what do they do? Do they come up with like another dessert or another main dish or something?
Well no, their Bavarian allies were screaming for help because at that stage an Austrian army had rolled into Bavaria and taken over the place. And the Russians were on their way.
Didn't the Austrians ever learn? Just because it just sounds like... No, obviously not. No. This is just the story in the Austrians. They never learned. So there's loads of French people in Belgium wanting to invade Britain. They failed to do it because that bloke puts his hand in his coat and because he hasn't got a hand. Then somebody in Bavaria, which is probably a bit of Germany now, and then the Russians and the Austrians have another go, having given up on trying to invade Italy, I guess, and they just go, look, let's just do the German stuff straight away. We want that BMW factory.
There was some fighting initially, but that's all peripheral to what we, to the main story. Okay. The main story
has that thing in France happened yet? Sorry, that thing in Spain happened yet? Where Sean Bean says bastard a lot. No, that's still coming. Bloody hell! This could go on for ages, couldn't it?
A long time yet.
We're in October, November 1805, and Napoleon gets his army from the Channel coast down to sort of Munich, Bavaria area in about 11 days.
Wow!
Right?
So that's like faster than that's like faster than 2 legs in the Champions League, then.
He shocks everybody by the speed of his manoeuvre. That's his tactic.
Yeah, they go like the clappers. They completely turn up behind the Austrians and say, "Okay, we've got you surrounded." And essentially, that's it. A whole Austrian army of about 30,000 men has to surrender.
In Munich?
Ulm actually, but somewhere near Munich.
Okay.
They might have gone there for the beer festival. We're not quite sure.
Yeah, that was October, wasn't it? So that could well be it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then decided to stay.
Do we know if that played a part in it? No. Dave, are you still drinking Hefesteiner while you're doing this? Or have
got. Yes, there it is.
Hefesteiner, and that was one of the Austrian generals or something.
Could be.
Okay, so he's gone from Calais with his duty frees to the beer festival in Munich. The Austrians have surrendered without a fight.
They were horribly outnumbered, so cut off. Yeah.
And he has beaten them every single time he's taken them on before.
Yeah.
And then so he's now got an army.
Yeah. Then the rest of the Austrian army and the Russians who are beginning to arrive decide they need to retreat because they're outnumbered and Napoleon's coming after them.
And he's pretty cool by this time. He's got their number.
Yeah, right.
He's got given them the evils, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
He business as well.
He chases them off past Vienna, and now Napoleon's supply lines are becoming a bit long, so they end up in Bohemia.
He can't get his prawns and his chicken and his olives. They're starting to get tricky.
They've moved on. Chicken meringue. They've dropped the prawns and they're using mushrooms instead by this point.
Yeah, and the roads are so bad the lorries can't get up the road, so it's all really bad. So anyway, they get to this place called Austerlitz, and it's a kind of a stalemate. Napoleon hasn't really got enough guys to attack the Austrians and Russians, so he wants to lure them into attacking him. So he asks for an armistice and makes it look like his army is really weak, and they think, right, we've got him on the run. We've got the advantage. Let's go for him.
Because having been beaten by him comprehensively many, many times before, and having had their army captured by him like months before, and knowing that he's quite clever and good at this stuff, they were like, "Aha, we have him now."
Exactly. That's it.
Okay. So who was the Austrian general? Like, Alfred von Muppet?
It's called the Battle of the Three Emperors, and you had the Emperor Francis I of Austria, you had Nicholas of Russia, Alexander of Russia, beg your pardon, Alexander, and Napoleon, the three emperors.
So this is basically going to be a battle that proves that hereditary leadership is not that clever, but then if you can kind of do the whole emperor thing, but do it through sort of military promotion and a coup, that kind of works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What sort of hats are they wearing now?
The French are wearing
Russians were in Charcos.
No, they're not. They're still in bicorns. Because the shako didn't come in until 1806.
And the Austrians are still in their funky helmets.
Austrians are still in the funky helmets.
These are the sort of comedy pickle helps.
Some are wearing shakos.
Funny enough, I saw a picture.
The Russians actually had gone to Sharkos for 1805.
The Russians had that kind of chemo thing, didn't they?
Yeah.
But,
Should we do a whole special episode on Napoleonic hats? Is that a thing?
Well, you could.
No. Everybody's saying no. I can see that there's a big no here. Okay. So there's like they can tell each other apart by that.
Just Simon.
Yeah. Everybody.
So Napoleon's masterpiece.
His masterpiece.
It's his masterpiece. He says that he was comparing himself with Alexander the Great, and he copied Alexander the Great's tactics at Arbela and in Spurgia, in that he drew the enemy onto him in the centre and then folded him from the flanks. But it was also very misty.
Isn't that Hannibal? Did he get that one wrong?
But I mean, it was more Alexander they compared themselves with. But it's the last time that Napoleon really has the advantage.
There was a lot of mist on the battlefield, and basically drew him in from the heights, so had them marching left, right, and centre, and basically catching them out, because he was well and truly, not supposed to win it if the Austrians thought they were going to steam through, roll.
So does that mean this is a game, or a battle which is utterly unrepeatable under any set of war games rules, because you can actually see where the other troops are?
Yeah, basically.
I think the problem is scale and how big the war. I mean, these Napoleonic battles are absolutely enormous. I've seen Wagram done in 6 or 10 millimeter, and it really looked the pace. But
Wagram was one of the biggest battles.
Tim's looking for a new army to paint.
Yeah, well, Austrians in 10 mil, maybe that's a lot quicker, and then I can do those before I eventually turn into the British. Possibly that could be the answer. So there's Austerlitz.
Mine as well.
So the Russians are on hills in front of Napoleon, and he can't go at them on the hills. So he suckers them into coming off the hills and attacking him.
He pretends he's retreating, and they come charging after him.
And Marshal Lannes, who's I was going to say Alexander Napoleon's great general, Marshal, is on the left-hand side.
Marshal Lannes?
Lannes, Lannes. He's
one of the top guys, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said lamb, like like beef
Larry.
lamb, but
no.
Yeah, Larry. Yeah.
These guys are all very young and they're all. Some of them are actually working class. One of them, for example, is the son of an innkeeper, and they've risen through the ranks, and the soldiers respect him. But Lannes makes this massive sweeping movement on the left, which comes around the back of his opponents, and it's quite a decisive battle. I'll go over to Andy for more.
So he's pulled the Russians off a big hill, and Larry the Lamb has kind of swung around the back of them and given them a spanking, and the Austrians are suddenly going, oh, this appears to have happened before, but we're just doing it on a bigger scale with more Russians involved, we're somewhere near Vienna. Did you say this one? Or
yeah, in Bohemia. Yeah,
you're in Bohemia. Okay,
well past Vienna.
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia.
Bit of Rhapsody in the background.
It's actually in Slovakia these days.
It was before Czechoslovakia, I imagine.
Yeah.
So this is where the Hussites were, and Jan Žižka, and there's war wagons
that's right.
involved.
That lot, yeah,
that's all good. Okay, so Austerlitz is over, and then presumably the Austrians and the Russians are all kind of like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Why do we get sucked?
Yeah, throw in the towel. Very sorry. Yeah, throw the towel. Very sorry, God. We'll do it again.
And I know, and I remember from last time, because the way the Austrians deal with these crushing defeats is to sue for peace, and then the French have to go away, because they've done that successfully several times.
Yeah, but the French
build another army.
Yeah, but the French took some provinces off them and really punished them this time.
Okay, so the French.
It's also important to note that the Austrians sue for peace, but the Russians don't. The Russians are still in the war.
Okay, because it's not actually in their country, and there's no big French army sort of sat on their doorstep or in Bohemia or wherever that is, which was probably part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Yeah,
because my geography's improved dramatically over the last week. Okay,
this is the last time that Napoleon's army. So Le Grand Army.
Is this a spoiler, Dave? Is this a spoiler you're doing for the rest of the series?
The army that he's created on the coast of, on the French coast to invade England is called La Grande Armée, which is possibly the best army. It's the last.
Sorry, Dave. Could you do that again with your Spanish accent as well?
La Grande Armée.
Oh, it's like I'm there. I can hear the music in the background already. It's amazing.
Isn't that a dessert?
But he's got
soldiers. I can smell the baguettes.
It's a revolutionary, enthusiastic army. So he's got Dutch, Polish, all sorts of troops from all over Europe fighting for him. And it's
but the French are also, a lot of them are now experienced troops, having been in several campaigns during the 1790s.
So they use that experience, and they use that experience to say, we need new hats. These bicorns are not effective. Is that what changes now?
After this period, other armies start to cotton on to his tactics. I mean, so his thing is that he has these corps which operate with all their equipment, and they can converge quickly. His idea is that basically he selects a battlefield and he splits his army into, say, 3 corps, and they all can work independently and they all converge rapidly. And 2 of the corps will hold the enemy in position while the 3rd corps comes in from an angle and provides a crushing defeat. And other people cotton on to his methodology. So it's the last time that his superiority of tactics and weaponry and maneuver makes
and hats.
Hats.
Okay.
People by this point are starting to work out how he does it.
To give you an illustration of the difference, at Austerlitz, in order to get a bunch of Austrians and Russians to attack Napoleon's left flank, they have 6 different columns, and the orders have to be written out 6 times, some of it in Russian and some of it in German. And that all takes ages. And then everyone's getting in each other's way, and there's no permanent formation larger than a regiment in these armies. So command control, Napoleon had, by having a sort of pyramid system of command control all the way up to corps, Napoleon had a major advantage in the way he was able to maneuver his army.
And they've all got like iPads and mobile phones effectively, and everybody else is still sending letters, like with pigeons and stuff.
And Napoleon could almost memorize every single unit, and he could carry in his own head where every unit in his army was.
So he's basically a wargamer then, but with more mobility.
He's your Graham Evans of Napoleonic wargame.
Okay.
And he's a very efficient chief of staff, a guy called Berthier, who was not that good at actual fighting, but brilliant as commander-in-chief and translating Napoleon's thoughts and cryptic clues into legible instructions so people could follow them.
Okay, so and this is called Berthier.
Berthier, B-E-R-T-H-I-E-R.
Oh no, Berthier. All right, okay, sorry. I thought his name might have been Bert. Okay, so this like really efficient Napoleonic army, it kind of does the Austrians. The Austrians go, oh, we should have seen that coming because it's happened as many times. The Russians are like, well, we'll carry on fighting because it's a long way away. You're not actually in our backyard.
Indeed.
The Brits, but he assembled an army to invade Britain, and Britain's at war. And but all this army is no longer at the Pas de Calais.
The British are still funding the war against Napoleon to be fought by everybody else.
Okay.
And hoping for Brexit.
And they've got a massive navy.
So. Yeah. And they've got a massive naval force, so to speak. So we've got Napoleon. He's done the Austrians. He's sort of done the Russians. The Russians are still playing. He's got a dirty great army in Eastern Europe. The Austrians have done their traditional, we've lost, so let's sue for peace so it doesn't really hurt and we don't get our capital kind of taken over, even though that would happen in the board game. And the Russians are kind of going home. The Brits and stuff are like, we've spent a lot of money with the Austrians. They're all a bit rubbish. We might have to do something ourselves. Austerlitz has happened. The French are thinking, this is brilliant. What we need is new hats and a new dessert. And then I presume after that, we're kind of moving towards another phase of the war. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I think tune in next week to find out, really.
That was almost coherent, wasn't it? I don't know if it was coherent if you're listening to it, but it sort of feels coherent. Well, look, with that Napoleonic excitement over for another week, which is quite astonishing, we go back to not quite 30 Years' War, but we go even further back to the world of medieval Scandinavia, and we're starting to compare Peter, I believe a lot of medium knights are really cool, with Simon, I'm not Peter. So I maybe have at least one other thing possibly to say if we're lucky, other than medium knights are really cool, Leroy Mayer, and to compare our 2 sets of ADLG army lists. So I think we've got the first one up on screen. So Simon, this is your list 221, the medieval Scandinavian, and I can see, following on from our ongoing discussion about obscure cooking involving chicken with extra pieces in the French army Napoleonic Wars, you've gone for an olive-based Kalamata Union with German allies in 1489 version of the medieval Scandinavian. So talk us through how this army works and what you kind of think about it, how it's going to fit together.
So the idea behind this army was to have a bit of fun with some of the more different troop types, rather than just a classic bunch of spear, a few knights, a few crossbowmen, and just charge across the table. Okay. So with the Swedes don't have a very high command structure. It's command 3. So and you have to have impetuous knights, which is always going to be good fun. So I thought, let's build a nice big hammer of knight command. So you've got 4 impetuous heavy knights. That way then you can get some pretty miniatures. Yep. 3 of those are elite, 1's ordinary. You have one
and
of
that's not messing about, yep.
No, so that's a definitive, I'm going that way. One way or the other, there is a result. Then we like to have a wingman running around. So you have one of the valets, which is a quality troop type, the medium cavalry, mediocre. Not even a bow, just medium cavalry.
Just mediocre. That's the cheapest thing in the game.
Yep. So, and the thought behind him again is the knights come through as that big wall of steel saying, "G'day, how are ya?" When it's safe to, the medium cavalry can break out and provide an overlap. As part of that command, you've also got a crossbowman and an elite handgunner, just to wander around and take a couple of pot shots in the flank or side, just to annoy somebody to get a charge off.
And that's got a brilliant commander. That's your CNC, isn't it?
That's a CNC. That's the head Swede. The big turnip himself. Yeah.
Okay.
Then, being of this period, because I've gone for 1489, you've got to have a few pikemen. So you always have to have Landsknechts. So a couple of big pike.
Are you thinking about doing this army in 28mm with those 28mm plastic ones with the Landsknechte people?
Yeah, because as you know, I do like the Landsknechts, and I like armies that can pick a fight. So you could go for spearmen, but I've gone for I have no idea how to pronounce the word, but it's the mixed unit formations where it's heavy swordsmen. Okay,
Dave. No, actually, no. I think we need to call in Dave Saunders to get the Spanish pronunciation of this one.
I've got no idea how you pronounce a Swedish unit called Ubundsire.
But we know exactly that you don't have much idea how to pronounce things in Spanish, but it's always quite entertaining if you have a go. But so we're going Ubundsire. Are we saying? Is this the official Dave translation?
Tamsin's pronunciation.
Ubundsire, or it could be Ubundsire.
Are they not announced to tables or something?
Okay. Yeah. Any which way. So what we've got here is 3 heavy swordsmen, half heavy swordsmen, half crossbowmen. So as a group of 5 heavy foot, they can wander across the table. They can, being the crossbowmen, doesn't matter how good your armor is, they're going to hit you. You've got a +1 to save. That should annoy people. Yes, I know that any knight that comes up against them is going to ride them down, but the pikemen will at least annoy a few people. So, and that's part of some of the compulsory troops.
Yeah, that's tricky for knights to charge, isn't it? With the pikemen in the middle and a lot of crossbowmen, you could end up with, doing some dings off the knights with that, with 3 shooters.
Yeah, I played against one of the Burgundian armies at Warfare last year, and the French player who I was playing against had a similar style command of this. We had a couple of pikemen and 3 or so of the mixed swordsmen, the mixed spear bowman units, and they were just an absolute pig because there was nowhere safe that you could charge in against. And as you try to line up, you'd have 2 or 3 elements shooting at you just to annoy you, and more often than not, you go in disrupted. So that never helped.
Okay, and then your third command then.
Third command, just to add being Kalamata Union, you need something to go with the olives. So we thought, what goes best with that? Sauerkraut. So
sauerkraut and olives, I like it.
Yeah. So going for the whole, probiotic type of food groups. And so I've gone for the medieval German ally. And I've gone for 2 more heavy knights, because you always need more knights. But these are the heavy impact knights, so they can actually, being German, they know what to do. Again, more Landsknechts, because you always need more pike. And here I've also added a couple of crossbowmen and a mounted crossbowman, or in this period it's the mounted medium cavalry firearm as the escort. So it makes for quite a small, tight army. It's only 19 elements. It's a very aggressive army with an initiative of 1. It's hard to get much more than 1 or 2, really. But I thought, since you're going to be defending most of the time and playing in a lot of the medieval periods, forests or mountains are going to be pretty common. So chuck a waterway, a lot of forest down one side, and then you've got this nice big wall of steel coming towards you, and you're going to get a result.
Okay, so you've got kind of 7 pikemen and mixed swordsmen, which is a chunk. You've got 3 crossbowmen, which kind of gets you up to 10 wide, and then you've got another 6 or so knights, gets you up to sort of 16, and a couple of medium cavalry to move around and give you some width on it. So you're thinking clutter it with forests and mountains and things like that, and just make this as narrow as possible, and make people, force them to fight you, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, it'd be a different style of army you'd have to deal with if you were going against a more skirmisher base, like a medieval, early medieval army where they can have more light horse javelin or whatever, or light horse bow. But in a proper medieval, proper medieval scrap against Germans or French and all that, most of the army is going to be very similar. And I just like the idea of this 5 wide of pike and heavy swordsman, crossbowmen, with a couple of pike on the German side. So you've got 7 wide of stodge coming at you, plus a lot of knights running around going, "Hi, how are you?"
No, that's definitely going to command attention, isn't it? Very, very much so. Right. Anybody on the gallery got any thoughts on this one, or any questions, having looked at the actual list in it? My kind of first thought is it looks a sort of smidge light on light foot, but I don't know how many are actually allowed in this particular army. Was there, or has anybody else got any other thoughts on this as a composition, or is it just very much you can see what it does? It's there. It's
Simon and I were provisionally going to play a game, but we just didn't quite get around to it yesterday. We might start one Wednesday night, but it might be a bit late, so maybe not. But I did put together a Swedish army list, and it was a bit different. And I think the thing about Simon's list is I think the cavalry split across 2 commands doesn't have enough oomph in either. If you come across a serious mounted wing, you can match up one, but I think the Germans would struggle. And I think his centre command, I think there's too much mixed stuff. I mean, if some heavy infantry get stuck into them, they're going to suffer as well. I think the 3 mixed units is more than I would choose personally.
Is there a minimum in this list that you need to go for?
You need to have 2 of the mixed units.
Well,
you don't have to take them as mixed. You can take them as outdoors if you want.
Yeah, so in the period of 14 or whatever it is, you can either have them as mixed units or as medium swordsmen or medium swordsmen. And I was thinking if I had the points.
I think you can take them as heavy Simon as well.
Yeah, maybe 2 choppies.
Yeah, so heavy swordsmen, 200 choppers, or medium swordsmen, 200 choppers. And I was thinking about whether you'd have the crossbowmen and a couple of medium swordsmen just to go down the flank. But I just thought also from a troop type, just have on the table, I thought the heavy swordsmen and crossbowmen would be fun.
I suppose if it was just heavy swordsmen or heavy swordsmen, 200 choppers, you lose that reach out from the shooting. And okay, in a straight medieval matchup, it might be better, but you don't have the ability to push forward. In fact, Dave, I'm looking at you and your love of singles and pairs of shooters here. You've got crossbowmen, you've got 3 crossbowmen, you've got 6 crossbowmen here, which is almost your magic 2-2-2, but organised a bit differently, which gives you a little bit more reach against kind of those sort of steppy armies that if you've got an Eastern European theme, maybe that you might see a few more, like my Hungarians, I guess, with all their medium cavalry.
I think this army that Simon's designed, we haven't seen pieces yet, is very, very different from the other medieval Scandinavian armies I've seen. I mean, Gordon uses this army a lot, and this is completely different because Gordon's army is almost all the mixed units with an ally of more mixed units. So he goes for this incredibly heavy mixed unit of swordsmen, crossbowmen, which almost operate like little Sherman tanks and march across the table. But I think this army is very much more Simon's sort of army with all the knights, the aggression. My only comment is I'd probably move one of the crossbowmen from Command 3 into Command 1 to give me the magic 2 crossmen operating together on the outside to deal with light horse and anything coming down the flank. And they shoot the knights in from Command 1. And I'd probably make the German ally, oh, he's allied, he has to be allied. I was about to say something stupid. But I'm different from Andy on this. I think with the German ally, having 2 knights with 2 pikemen is a good combination because other knights will not want to stand against the pikemen. So if your pikemen can keep up in speed with your knights, the knights can reach out, but the pike keep it moving forward.
Yeah, maybe, because the knights, I take your point, the knights are not impetuous, so you can move them at a speed of 2.
Exactly. So, basically you lead with the pikemen, and the pikemen clear the way for the knights to keep moving quickly with the crossbow and the mounted crossbow. So I like the cavalry firearm or mounted crossbowman sort of thing. That's really good.
Yeah, actually, maybe having the brilliant commander with 2 crossbowmen, then he has got more chance of moving them up. Okay, he is commanding impetuous knights, but okay.
But he's going to get supported by the 3 shooters in the centre. And
true.
I like the 3 shooters in the centre. They're only dangerous, they're swordsmen, not spearmen, but then you have to live with that.
I also like three shooters in the centre as well because they're swordsmen, they're heavy, they can take 4 hits, and they're going to be fighting next to 4 pikemen. So
true. They
can reach out and sort of like give the love from a distance, which you might want. And if someone does steam in, they're heavy swordsmen and they're well backed up by lots of pikes. So, yeah, I think they would survive quite well.
Oh, that could work, couldn't it? All right. Okay, well Simon, if you want to kind of...
Mediocre, in May, how much of an issue would that be?
Well, I think it'd be a lot.
Well, yeah, I suppose if they're charged by medium knights, but I suppose it's a tricky one, isn't it? Do you think the 4 pike is enough to? Because a lot of the pike in the medieval period are mediocre. So if you've got 4 average pike operating together, that is quite a lot. But let's see Peter's list now. Let's get that up on screen.
This means war.
Peter, you're also 1489. You've gone same date, which is interesting. Same mix of generals, but no ally. But do you want to just talk us through command by command, what's in each command and what it does?
Right. So I've got one command, which is the 2 heavy knights, one with the commander included plus unreliable. So I'm saving the points from that. I've got 2 elite impetuous knights. The reason for this command is you can put it down either first or last, depending on who you're going to be up against. And I've seen it used in a couple of tournaments really nicely. You've got a couple of heavy knights. They're impetuous, they're elite. They're going to go forward and you don't care. They're going to hit something. That's all you want them to do. Hit something, kill, die, go through. They're going to go in. And there's something sort of like nice, clean and relaxing about that, to be perfectly honest. That way, one of those commands, it's like, it's its own capable thing because once you get past the unreliable bit, as long as you don't throw a 1, you're still going to be able to control them. And then once you're actually in and hitting the general in with the heavy knight impetuous, you're going to be up against almost everything. It's great. Next command, I'll either have this probably on one of the wings or maybe the center. This is why I've started mixing things up because the first command has got 2 heavy knights. Now, both my other 2 commands have got either 1 or 2 heavy knights each. And so I could possibly end up with a heavy knight command in the center with 5 heavy knights going forward if I wanted to. Or I can have it out on a wing with the ubiquitous medium cavalry, ordinary, to go around the edge, because then I've got 2 heavy knights. But I haven't gone for the mixed half and halves. Both of the other 2 commands, I've got 2 pikemen with 2 heavy swordsmen and then 1 medium swordsman, 2-hander. The reason for this is in a number of competitions I've been in, I've really lacked a couple of times having that 1 medium 2-hander to go through the terrain. So in Italy, when we played there, this really helped me a couple of times. Just having that 1 unit that can be, for that overlap, be sat in the terrain. So if someone's got a crossbowman, great, I'll take them on, not a problem. I've got a couple of lights. I've even got elite lights in the 3rd one. So that medium swordsman also is able to move 3. So they can really back up. So you've got your pikemen mixed in with your heavy swordsman, 2-hander choppers going forward. I'll happily take on Simon's half and halves because they're mediocre, as Tasman was just saying. Mediocres, I'm going in with 2-handed chopper weapons. Great, I'll win a roll.
So this second command is almost 3 commands. It's got the brilliant CNC. So you've got a heavy infantry command, which is 2 pikemen, 2 heavy infantry, 2-handed cutters. You've got a rough terrain command, which is just 1 medium swordsman with 2-handed and 3 light infantry crossbow. Maybe they sit in front of the pikemen and protect them. And then you've got 2 knights, one ordinary impact, 1 impetuous elite, and the textbook medium cavalry. So you're almost trying to run 3 commands with a brilliant general. And your 3rd command is, as you say, is a bit similar to that. You've got the medium swordsman and 2 handgunners, which is your medium foot terrain. You've got a heavy swordsman and 2 heavy swordsmen, 2 pikemen, same again, and just 1 knight impact there, which kind of squeezes you up to 22, which is 3 more than Simon's army. But you've got 5 of those are light infantry, and he doesn't have any light infantry at all. But you've taken none of the actual proper crossbowmen, whereas Simon sat there with effectively 6 crossbowmen. So aren't you going to be a little bit vulnerable to shooting with this, which is going to force all your light infantry into the centre to protect your heavy foot and your pikemen to lose you that kind of width?
Well, previous experience, no. I've got 2 light infantry firemen on 1 firearms. So if they're split up, so if I've got the, depending on the placement of his crossbowmen, so he's got 2 crossbowmen in 1, 3 in another, and 1 in another. So fine, I'll get, I've got 3 light infantry crossbow in the middle one. So if I'm facing off, depending on how you place it, he could end up having 2 of his shooting 1 of mine. Fine, okay, he gets a hit. I've still got 1 protection. I'm still going forward. The idea is I'm rolling in. Worst case scenario, he gets 1, maybe 2 hits on me. I'm going in. It's great. I'm happy with that because I think my light infantry, from previous experience, will stop those crossbows. They're not elite crossbows. They're not hiding in terrain. So if he'd got a lot of medium bowmen in terrain, it could possibly get a bit annoying. But I've got the 2-handed choppers to have a go at that. The fact that they're going to be out in the open anyway, find these couple of crossbows, they could be in terrain, but I'll happily send the 2-handed swordsman in against that. But this is going forward. This is projecting. I want them delivered straight in there. And I've seen a couple of other people. This is something I want to learn to do better with the 3rd command, is to have that 1 heavy knight impact, maybe not in the front row, but as the troops go forward, then you decide where you're going to have it in. So these mixed commands that are, say, pike, crossbow, swordsman, pike, if you can angle it right and have the points where you have that split, and then the knight can then come in and hit one of those crossbow swordsmen, whereas my 2-handed choppies are up against these pikemen, it's going to be great.
Peter, I've worked out you could actually have a medium crossbow man instead of 22 units. if you got rid of a light infantry crossbow, dropped the medium cavalry to mediocre, and dropped one of your elite handgunners to ordinary, that would give you 7 points. You could have a medium crossbow if you want. That would effectively act as another medium foot unit, terrain unit potentially.
Fantastic. Can even improve on it and get some more shooting in. Perfect. Any other ideas?
Can I ask, what command, in your usual deployment, what command would you be looking at being in the centre, and which command's on the flank?
Number one.
Good question. It depends who I'm up against. If I've got a good idea about what they're going to be deploying, I'd possibly deploy the 2 heavy knights first, either in the centre or off to the left a little bit, or right, one of the 2 sides, because it just throws them off, because it's just 2 really knights going down, and so it forces them to commit more. So that's one of the things. The centre command, the C&C one, I'd probably have on one of the wings, but the other 2, it would be dependent on terrain. So if there's the right terrain in the centre or something, I'd possibly have, sometimes you get that great big lump of terrain that's put in the centre. I'd have the 2 infantry commands around that possibly, where you've got the 2 medium swordsmen to go through to clear it out in case there's anything there. But if it's going to be more my side, I'll have the heavy knights in the centre, because then I know that whoever I'm up against is going to try and get their medium swordsmen or medium troops out to possibly the wings, where sometimes, you have a nice bit of terrain to go and hide in. And then I'll have my heavy knights going straight through the centre to cause the most damage as possible.
One thing you could do, Peter, is have your first corps in a column, and then it's only 1 UD wide, and put that in the centre, but stepped back from the other 2 commands, where you put side by side with just a 1 UD gap. And then you've got a choice as to whether you want to move the knights through the middle or slide them around to one side.
Yeah, good idea.
I guess. Go on,
Dave.
I was going to say, what I'm looking at there is what I call the Mike Bennett DBM army, where you have this tiny micro command, like Command 1, which is basically 3 bases. You put that one down in the centre, and then you get to see the enemy's army's composition and position, and you can then position your troops, in relation to that, to work out where you're going to get the best matchups. I like that tactic, and I think that's quite good. The only thing I'd say on that one is I'm not sure about Command 1 having a heavy knight impetuous elite, because he will win something, but he will then have to follow up, and then he's at risk. I mean, I use heavy knight impetuous generals quite often, but I like to put them in a larger group of 4 where they're supported by other ones. That general heavy knight impetuous elite, he will kill what he strikes, but when he kills it, he's going to have to move on of his own volition, and then he's going to leave himself open to be hit in the flank.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm thinking of Adam, your kind of comment on this is that little micro command is really interesting. The 2 really, really good knights, but it either operates with one of the other 2 commands. It either operates with the 2 knights or the 1 knights, and either one it chooses to operate with, I'm just looking at that leaves the other command with not enough to do stuff, because I just look at the heavy swordsman and the pikeman is doing one thing, but without that shooting, they don't support the knights. They are separate lumps of terrain. They're both pretty pokey, but I think the thing with the crossbowmen is crossbowmen support what knights are doing by reaching out and degrading the enemy cavalry or pushing skirmishing cavalry away or whatever. But I just, I think I can see what this is there to do, and part of it is depending on what the period and what the theme is. But there are still some sort of slightly steppy sort of armies out there, says the man who's just been painting Hungarians. And I just wonder, without any real proper range shooting, other than the kind of crossbowmen, light infantry crossbowmen, which are just, they're a skirmish screen rather than proper shooters. Whether this army ends up stacking all its knights in one place, leaving the table kind of thin, whether it just doesn't reach out and support the knights with proper shooting.
You see, the joy of this is when I've seen it done, and I've tried it a couple of times myself with other types of armies, having that couple of knights, fine, they're impetuous, they're going forward, they're elite. I'm expecting them to punch through, but I'm expecting people to be annoyed and worried about. Okay, so they're going to focus their attention on them, and then I've got the flexibility in how I stack the other two commands. And that mix up, I probably wouldn't actually stick all the heavy knights together, because then it's too easy to counter. I'd probably have that heavy knight command in the center, or as Andy was saying, actually move it out after the first turn, one side or the other. But the third command, I'd probably just have the heavy knight behind the front line ready to go in. The other one, the C&C one, I'd probably have maybe off to one wing, or depending on how they deploy, maybe they're in the center. It's that degree of flexibility I like about this. I must admit, I haven't had a lot of luck with the half and half shooters myself. I know that people have, but I'm more in a kind of get in there, get stuck in kind of guy.
I worry about the impetuous knight in the centre command in Command 2. I know you've got a brilliant general there, but that brilliant general's got a lot to do.
He's got three things to do, one of which is an impetuous, one of which is two knights, one of whom's impetuous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, if I've got my Hungarian hat on,
you can mitigate that by putting the impetuous knight behind the other guy, so then he's less likely to have an impetuous charge requirement.
But then he's less likely to be in range, isn't he? He kind of wants to be there. Yeah. No, I guess part of it is this army is a low aggression army, and it does have a lot of terrain choices. So you could end up with having almost to defend against it to stop it being in forest or plain, and narrowing the table down if you wanted to do that. And I think, Peter, when we played that game on TTS a couple of weeks ago, and I tried to use that first time out with a Hungarian army, the terrain ended up far too cluttered for my army to actually do anything. And use its kind of skirmishy stuff, and I think your army was kind of similar to this, but I think this does need that terrain. Otherwise, it just feels to me it could be a bit exposed against the sort of Mongol type armies, just because of that lack of shooting.
I think Mongol type armies, I just get frustrated, but I don't think they get a win against me. You see what I mean? It would be sort of like one of those, they'd sort of shoot around, because the Mongol ones, they're not crossbow, they're bow. So they're sort of like trying to chip away. I'm in heavy armor. I've got, enough light skirmishers. Either I close them down, but it would be hard to,
If you've got a competent Mongol player, I've been torn to pieces by one. So I brought a proper heavy knight army into it, and I've done it as well as a Mongol player. If you can get the right table, or you can do it properly, you can scatter around. The bow had no effect. It was the fact of you were charging each guy three ways, or recall, hit him in the flank, force him to turn, you break off, hit him in the next flank, hit him in the flank, get a bit of blowback, and then you start pulling things apart, especially with your impetuous troops. I've had some medieval armies torn to pieces very effectively. It was like watching someone peel apart a chicken. It was just like, I'll take that arm, I'll take that leg, I'll take that bit I didn't know what to do with, but I'll eat it anyway. And it was horrible.
Yeah. How many knights were there in your army again, Simon? I'm just trying to compare the two as we start to get towards the comparison part of there were 6. So there's actually five in this one.
So the 3 elite knights, the 3 elite impetuous, 1 ordinary impetuous, and 2 of the German command.
Yeah, so I've still got 5 knights going in.
Yeah, so there's kind of 1 more in Simon's army, and then your pikemen are matching up. You've got 4 of the heavy swordsmen against 3 of the mixed, and then it's a couple of halberdiers against a stack load of crossbowmen, but with your light infantry as well. Okay, Interesting. Well, look, I think we're kind of getting to that stage. We've got two armies that have both picked the same date line. I guess there's a reason for why this date line was the one that you both picked. Is it just the Kalamatic Union, or
I just wanted the Lanchnecks.
Yeah.
Just as a model type, I love them.
Pike makes the model difference. Okay. Well, look, shall we kind of flip both of them back onto screen now then, and just kind of run down it? So, Adam, you're top of my screen now. Of the two of them, which one would you most want to take into a competition?
It's kind of interesting because Peter's list, I think, against a player like me, against a not top player, I think Peter's list would just chew it up really, really well. Chew anyone up really, really well because it's really, really powerful, and it'll hit really hard. I think where Peter's list will come undone is against a really skillful player, because Peter's talked a lot about flexibility, but this army's got a lot of flexibility at deployment. But then after that, with the mix of troops and stuff, I think against a player that can try and cut it up, I think it would struggle. Whereas I could say the same about Simon's army as well, but Simon's army is less reliant on being clever. It's sort of like, it's more straightforward. So I think it would do not so well against not so good players, but perhaps have more of a chance against more skillful players. So I'm going to go with Simon's army because I would have to think less and it's more straightforward.
Okay. Well, Dave, what about you? You know, you're the man who uses some of these types of armies, and you've got all your theories about, you know, interesting on your man of theory about units of 2 bow with an army with lots of crossbow and army with no crossbow. But
I think although Peter's army's 22 and Simon's 19, it's the different. I mean, Peter's army's using more light foot. I would, because there's more bowmen. Sorry, Peter, because there's more bowmen in Simon's army, I would go with that. With the proviso that one of the bowmen gets shifted into the other command. And I worry about the impetuous general on his own in his own command. I mean, I think he's fantastic and really good. He kills what he gets, but he's liable to get killed himself quite early on, I think. But it's much of a muchness. The non-proviso I'd say is, as I say, Gordon's the expert with his army, and his army would be completely different. It would be absolutely no comparison. He would end up with 12 of the mixed units.
Interesting. Right, Tamsin, down. I don't know whether you've seen or played Gordon when we used to all go down the club. But what's your thoughts on these two? Which one do you lean towards?
Like Dave, I think I would tend to go with Simon's. It's more straightforward, which is no bad thing with given my competent my generalship. Though Peter's does have, being larger, I would probably might last longer, but as a lot of that extra size comes from light foot, maybe not. So I think I balance Simon's list.
Okay, Andy, what about you? Where are you on this one?
I would go for Peter's list. I think it's more the kind of style of army that I'm comfortable with. You know, if somebody said to me, have one of these two armies, you've got to fight a competition with it, I would choose Peter's. If I had Peter's list, I'd be inclined to try and tweak it slightly, but I prefer that army to Dave's. I'm not comfortable with all these mixed units because I don't think they're very good going forward, and they're very vulnerable if cavalry gets into them. I know they've got the pikemen to help protect them, but Peter's army is more flexible. It's got more going forward hitting power, and that's the kind of style of army I prefer.
Okay, well, it is a tough call. They're the same year. They're very, very similar with all the pikemen, similar numbers of knights, but it just is that difference. You know, I think I can see, Peter, with what you're doing with a lot of light infantry as being your terrain troops, but I guess this is a low aggression army, and so it is going to be defending in plain or forest quite a lot, and you're going to put quite a lot of that terrain out. And the thing I kind of look at is that the light infantry crossbow and the handgunners and stuff, and they just feel sort of like a defensive way to use terrain. It's kind of slightly more difficult to come past it. Whereas I just see with Simon's extra crossbowmen and the like, you just have a bit more ability to reach out of terrain. And particularly, I think if it was a straight one-on-one with a medieval army, I would definitely go Peter's army. If it was going Scandinavia and west, perhaps I would probably go Peter's. But if it's going sort of Scandinavia and west and east, I think I would probably go with Simon's, just because I like the idea of having an actual counter to be able to beat those Hungarian-y kind of Mongol armies as well. You'd have to work harder to beat the heavy foot medievals, but I think a lot of the heavy foot medievals are coming in at the 19 and 20 as well. So your sort of 2 or 3 crossbowmen is not the end of the world, and the crossbowmen are just zippy and fast across the table, whereas I think a lot of the other stuff is all just moving too. And I'm really unsure about that. The impetuous knight in the middle ends up occupying a lot of the command and control from the other one. But I think the big question, though, which I still, Peter, looking at it, I think, how would this fare against a wall of medium knights with some elephants? And I just can't see how it would deal with that at all, really. And that's always the paper, scissors, stone, and you choose first option that you present us all at most weeks. So I feel that we have to just finish up by asking you, how would it do against a wall of medium knights with some elephants?
I was actually thinking of that. And I remember a game against Hubert where I had a wall of medium elite knights and he had a mixture of this. I think it was in Birmingham at that competition there. And he basically stomped the hell out. So
Okay.
that was my testing moment of this sort of it was a Hubert special. My knights went in medium elite, his knights went in heavy impetuous elite. One roll later, one set of rolls later, I had some like 2 knights left, he had full knights left. So there it's done. That's the unfortunate thing, if you can get them in correctly.
Okay, so basically in a fantastically, almost feels like it was planned segue. So Hubert managed to ask your army a question which he couldn't answer. And now it appears to be time for Andy's quiz. So there's the fantastic music. Everybody's been dancing around. We've had a little bit of French techno disco. We're all allowed back into shops. Everybody is going to Primark this week to get their new disco French techno gear, as I can see. And it's delightful to see you all wearing it after seeing you on the news queuing in Oxford Street this afternoon. But Andy, take us away with to whatever land of weirdness that you have this week, and start by telling us the answers to the world of weirdness. I think it was even a bonus question last week, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, last week it was Reich said Fred. And Frederick the Great left behind some famous quotes. And here are some with some certain words blanked out and what are the missing words. Blank adds dignity to what would otherwise be an ugly brawl.
Artillery.
Well done, Townsend. Yes, artillery.
Uh-huh. That's a Napoleon thing. I've learnt that.
No, that was
Frederick the Great. Sorry. Okay.
And
all right.
But
Austrian succession and
all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Look, they're all sprayed white, the Austrians. It's all fine. It doesn't really matter what period. Go on then. Fine. Carry on.
Blank without military might is like music without instruments.
Diplomacy.
Again, well done.
Wow.
She's not just a pretty face. And the more I see of men, the better I like blank.
My dogs.
Yep.
Dog. Yeah, I do.
And the bonus one, which has got nothing military, I just love this quote, is a blank singer. I should as soon expect to get pleasure from the neighing of my horse.
German.
Yep. You've Googled these, haven't you?
No, Fred quotes.
Oh, right, okay. The other one, which I didn't put in, was a crown is just a hat which lets the rain in, which I think is rather good.
I think that's a very good set of answers.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la une maladie. Question.
Right. Anyway, this week it's about famous British Army regiments, and I've called it Plucky Numbers. Here are the official numbers of 3 British Army infantry regiments and a well-known fact about each one. What is the geographic-related name of each of these regiments? The 28th. This regiment earned the right to wear their cap badges on the back of their hats because they fought the enemy to both their front and rear at the Battle of Alexandria in 1801.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's going back to Napoleonic. There's a hat thing as well. That's good.
Yeah.
Happy with that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right. 57th. This regiment acquired its nickname, the Diehards, from its heavy casualties suffered at the Battle of Albuera in 1811, which we'll come to one of these days.
Right. Okay.
And the third one, 88. The translation of this non-English regiment's motto is "Clear the way."
Clear the way. Okay. Well, those are. I'm hoping there's some comedy answers there, because we're almost drifting into like proper serious quiz question time there. Slightly weird, but I think on that note, let's roll the French music.
Comment les entendre? Question. Comment les voir? Question. Le trou est sans fond? Question. La légende le dit? Question. Elle dit aussi? Question. C'est une maladie? Question.
So, with the quiz out the way, we return to the end of the fantastic army list picking and start to work out what army list we're going to look at next week. So I think Mr. Leroy Mayer, are you is computer ready? Does computer say yes?
Please hold it. It's a little bit slow.
Our computer's a little bit slow. We'll do the typing noise. So Simon, press the magic button. What's random.org giving us today?
251 Ottoman Empire.
Oh,
Ottoman Empire. That's an intriguing one, because that's got some. Is that the one with some interesting allies, or you do it the other way, or whatever?
Yeah.
Full on Ottoman, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Dave, you've been painting up some Ottomans, or threatening to paint up some Ottomans.
I am threatening to paint up some Ottomans, so I'm happy to go with that.
That sort of puts you in the frame.
And Tim, I was thinking, since you've got Hungarians, and the Hungarians squabbled against the Turks on a reasonably often basis.
It is pretty much the same army. You're right. Yeah, and I can. That gives me an instigation to actually decide to buy and paint some Ottomans. That might be the answer. So no, look, it'll be a me against Dave off with the Ottoman Empire 251 next week.
I think the question is to Serbian or not to Serbian.
To Serbian or not to Serbian? That is the question.
Or Golden Horde.
Or Golden Horde. It's definitely going to be interesting. Well, we'll look forward to that next
elephants.
Week. No elephants.
This means war.
So we're coming to the final furlong now, and I think it's just a quick round the screen to see what's on the painted table for next week. So Peter, I think you've already teased us with depending on what arrives in the post, and you were going to think about. You've had an hour and a half to think about what you would paint first if they both arrive at the same time.
I think it would have to be try and finish off the Austrian army. I just want to finish it off, because these are the troops that aren't actually white. And so having sort of like some nice pink Hungarian hussars, Hungarian grenadiers, and mixing it all up a bit just to finish it off, just so I can close it out. That chapter's then closed before I go really colourful with the Spanish.
Okay, good answer. Dave, what about you? You still got chariots to do? Is it chariot week?
3 chariots. And then some odds and sods for the Egyptians, and then the Ottomans. I think I might even move straight on to painting some Ottomans to give me some inspiration for next week's army list.
So you're gonna choose the list before you start painting, or are you just going to pile straight on in there?
Well, I've got an idea of using Dave Allen's type of Ottoman list, but I'll tell you about that next week.
Okay, something to look forward to then. All right. Tamsin, I'm guessing Mega City 1 doesn't have many Ottoman Sipahis in it, unless I've missed a few episodes of 2000 AD.
Not that I'm aware of, but I carry on with the Judge Dredd figures. I've got it's on. So I use sort of the arch villain characters. You got
the cabinet.
Judge Death.
Yeah, got Death. Got Mean Machine Angel, Orlok the Assassin, Nero Narcos. and several others. So.
Big Bad Dom?
The crime is life, the sentence is death.
When are you doing the fatties?
I've painted those, just haven't photographed them yet.
We want photographs.
Have they got
Excellent.
wheels?
Yeah, they've got belly wheels.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. Something to look out for next week then.
You've got to
Andy,
get the surfer one.
The surfer one. Oh, Chopper.
Yes, Chopper. Got to have Chopper.
They haven't done it. Warlord haven't done a model of him yet.
An
No.
Australian problem.
Right. Okay. So Andy, you're drilling. So you've drilled and finished the Irish. And what's on the list for you next week?
I finished drilling the Irish. I'm sort of finishing painting and sticking them together and tidying them off. So I'm hoping to finish them by next week, and then do the Seleucid pikemen, who've also been drilled. And then I've got some Imperial Roman legionaries, and then it's what shall I do next? Probably some ships after that.
Yeah, I must admit, my next week I've got a real bizarre sort of decision. Do I wade into the black sails thing and start making up those 1/700 scale ships and start doing some of that? I've got a handful of random Malifaux figures, which it's been so long since I've played. I'm almost at the point of thinking I'm painting stuff I know that I will never play. Unless, Adam, maybe we try and play on Vassal at some point. Give that a go sometime in the week.
Yeah, that might be an idea.
That might be a thing. I've got to. I actually looked again at the Blue Moon Germans, early Germans, which I finally realised I've actually bought 3 packets of. So I've got about 70 of them, not the 2 packets that I thought, which is starting to be a lot not to do anything with, even though they do appear to look pretty much identical, other than being about 3 millimeters taller than my Essex Gauls and things like that.
So, sorry, Tim. So you thought you ordered 2 packs, but you accidentally ordered 3. Is that how that worked?
I didn't know. No, I didn't order them at all. I actually bought them from Blue Moon in America at that competition that I went to before lockdown started. But I'd forgotten I'd bought 3 packs. I thought I'd only bought 2. I've got some 10mm tanks that I never really needed. I bought in January, but I'm kind of wanting to do Malifaux. I'm wanting to do Malifaux and Black Sails, probably just to give myself a break before I go into either Spartacus or the 28mm Arabs, because I think it's still going to be a bit of a damp week, and the 28mm Arabs is big. So
what are the tanks you bought, Tim?
Sorry?
What are the tanks you bought?
I've got some 10mm Panzer IVs and a few other bits and pieces.
What I would say your choice there, Tim, is if you do Malifaux, you will enjoy it, because they're nice figures to paint.
That's true.
If you do Black Sails, it's modelling and putting things together, and you've never done it before, so that's going to be hard work. So if you're up for the challenge, do the ships. If you want a week of fun painting, do Malifaux.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I've got some people who are on fire, and I think I've learned how to paint fire reasonably well with the fire golem. So maybe the Malifaux stuff, because it's been there, and I think some of them will be funny and entertaining. So yeah, maybe Malifaux wins. I'll do some black undercoating on that one. Okay. Maybe I'm convinced. Simon, what about you? What's on the list after 2 elephants in a week?
Well, I think I found more elephants. I seem to have bought 7 of the museum Z range elephants.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whoops! I don't know how that happened. There may have been a sale on. So
there was a sale. Did we miss a museum sale?
These are ones I pre-bought in January.
Okay.
They had their big sale, and I try to be good and dole the miniatures out throughout the year. So the elephants are now saying, paint me. So they're going to paint them up. And the other ones I'm working on, which is I'm going to start painting up some 15mm pike and shot units for ADLG Renaissance. I'm going to do some salvo units, some of the Swedish ones, going on a Swedish theme here.
So how's those rules going? Are they nearly fit to be let loose on the public?
So am I allowed to pimp out a set of rules?
I'm sure you are.
So I've got the next version of ADLG Renaissance now ready, which I'm about to hit publish on or post on the Facebook forum for ADLG.
Okay.
So we've now got the June update of the Renaissance supplement. So you still need to have the ADLG rules, but this supplement allows you to play Renaissance using ADLG. So I've done tweaked 80 or so army lists covering from the Italian War, 30 Years' War, the Swedish Wars, through to Japan, covering from 1500 to 1696. They are unofficial, but Hervé has allowed me to publish them as a free supplement, so it will cost you nothing to play them. And they're a lot of fun. Things happen, pike and shot get in. You can do a tertio without dropping a kidney, trying to pick the thing up. And it's fun and violent. Everything gets stuck in.
Game.
Are you able to upload or put a PDF on your? Because you've got a blog, haven't you?
I do. Yeah.
Is it possible to put a PDF on a blog, or I can't remember if that's possible for a download.
It can be, because what I've got the files are stored on a Dropbox that I've just shared out.
Okay.
So I've got a tiny URL I can share out on which I'll put on the ADLG forum, and I can put on my blog as well, and just share it around just to have some fun, And I'm thinking,
drop me a note. I could post something on Madaxeman as well with a link to it if you wish.
Cool. Yeah.
A little bit more airtime.
Because Hervé has said he's vaguely interested. His brain is more at version 4 of the rules at the moment, so he hasn't come up for breathing. But if people play them, we can find out if there's anything that doesn't make sense, whatever. We can continue pimping them around, and they're just fun. And I'm going to start mucking around with Tabletop Simulator and see if I can create a few pike and shot units, cannibalizing some of the medieval armies. Because I can't do graphics, but I can copy and paste. So,
we can cut and paste and cheat. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can get a couple of tertios and pike and shot units to run around and just push things around the table.
I'll say that I know of some people in the club who've actually rebased their Renaissance armies for these.
All right, interesting. Well, that starts to tempt me. Rebasing is a lot easier than actually painting stuff, isn't it? And you do get something there. I must admit, I was thinking of looking at some of my medieval spearmen and crossbowmen and going, maybe I should remake some of those units that most of us decided were really cool in the army section as well, to have a look at as well. So okay, so we've got some quite eclectic, probably our most eclectic painting week ever then, possibly coming up, apart from last week when Peter's blue-winged evil monkey probably would have made Second World War British from the other 6 people actually on balance be quite eclectic. So a lot of interesting stuff to look forward to on the podcast next week, and another set of answers and questions for Andy's quiz, another week of Napoleonic. We must be getting some battles that someone's heard of. I think we've gone past the food stage, unless there's more food to come, and another list checking on the fabulous 251, the Ottomans. I can't believe it's not Serbian, I believe is the official title for that one. And on that note, I think it's time for us all to rush out, start queuing outside Primark, and buy slightly larger clothes for what I understand the Germans have a compound German word for the weight that you put on while staying at home during lockdown, which is I can't remember the exact German, but I think into English it translates as COVID bacon. So so if we all give a wave and try and burn off some of our COVID bacon, and goodbye everybody, and we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bacon.
One thing. Simon's list is illegal.
Minor detail. We'll ignore that entirely this week. Nobody will notice.
Just edit that out.
Now, on a positive side, I can claim it wasn't me, because I used the Army Builder website, so it's not me being dubious or a conflict or anything.
No.
Yeah. Okay,
you missed the V of his medium foot crossbow mixed units. There should have been another point.
Oh, that's all right. I think the medieval one of the generals is going to become embedded as well. So, but anyhow,
absolutely no problem at all.
That works. That's fine.
his underwear.